Good morning. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Sean?
Yeah, recovering from a UTI. So it's been an interesting week. Between actually feeling dousing myself with water, which I never do, thus why I can have UTIs. I end up dehydrated. Um, I feel great because I have more water in my system than I've had in years. So I think my body's happy. But while also on antibiotics, it's made my goldfish memory even worse. So occasionally I'll be mid sentence and then I'll just be like, the thing is just gone. So,
Yeah, I had a grandparent who, like, we thought it was Alzheimer's. We thought they were dying, like, and it was a UTI. Like, those are no joke. What it can do to your mind. It was, and then when it was treated, it was like the person was back. It was insane.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I don't wish those on anybody. So, and they're not even the worst kind of pains you can have, but it's enough that it's debilitating. So,
Right. So this is a great way to open up a comment.
let's talk about our beans.
We
Um,
can talk about pain. We can
yeah.
talk.
Oh. What you been up to? What is new on your horizon?
I have a speaking of pain, I have a badly sprained ankle and I just got a boot. So I have this big, I don't know if it's plastic or plastic slash rubber boot on. And so now everybody wants to talk to me um, about the boot. Like what's funny is somebody even this morning, so I took my kids to school and somebody said, yeah, what happened? I seen you for the last week limp around, and now you have the boot. It's like, it's funny that you wouldn't feel comfortable talking to somebody when they were just limping around for an entire week and you could see it, but then they get the boot. It's like, all right, now I can talk to them about it. Now I can address it.
Well, what's the thought process of that person's mind? I would be willing to bet is like, did he always limp? And if I asked, would I, you know what I mean? Like, did I not notice?
But like now it's confirmed. Like
Yeah,
it's just injury, not lifelong disability.
I think everybody's afraid to be offended about everything, right? You don't walk up to a woman that's overweight and ask her if she's pregnant or like that whole scenario, right? Because that's just like people. It's just you just don't do that. Actually, you made me think of. I was in my car and my son was 3, sitting in the front seat, just kind of waiting with the window down. And this woman walked up and she was like, "Oh, hi, how are you doing?" And I could see his little brain turning because she had a little bit of a mustache. And he was like,
Oh.
"You have a mustache." And then, and I was just like, "No," to close that off because he had done that before. And and she was, but she handled it really well. She's like, "Oh, do I?" And then she just kind of like kept walking. But
I I've had it even. I don't know. I don't want to compare it. I've had, yeah, okay. I don't even know if I can explain it. Yeah, kids without knowing can be absolutely racist. Like I had he was 3, he but he was honestly asking why somebody had what to him looked like smaller eyes. And so he squinted and said, "Why are your eyes like this?" to somebody. And I had to try to figure out in the moment how to like play it off or like not play it off. I was like, you know, buddy, people have just different, different features. Like, and I couldn't tell if that person was just trying to be nice and acted like they didn't know it, or I was able to like, yeah. But it's so hard as a parent. Like, they don't have a filter. How do we not get them to make those really bad comments?
well, at the end of the day, it's not a bad comment. That's an innocent child asking a question because they saw something different for the first time, right? It's us
Yeah,
adults that keep making this into a problem.
that's
So,
true.
like we were on the ferry one time, and Evan kept asking me if a man wearing a turban was a genie, but his context was
Yep.
that's what he saw from cartoons and
Yep.
stuff,
Yep.
right? So like no, he's not a genie, but it's part of his culture. And that was it, right? But
What would have been funny is if the guy overheard and said, "Excuse me, I am a genius."
yeah,
Watch it, sir. How do
yeah.
you know I'm not one? How
I mean,
dare you?
that would be refreshing. Like we could all relax a little bit,
Right.
kind of recognize that, like, okay, I know what I look like in my color and skin and clothes, and I know what projections you're putting onto me, and I'll just own it. Like
I take offense to you not thinking I'm a genie.
I'm taking away one of your wishes. You know, like
Right. You only
now
get
you only get 2 wishes.
you jerk.
You little jerk.
Look what you did, you little jerk. Good Home Alone 1 phrase.
Like I get a lot with this mohawk. I get kids, like kids love it. Actually, what it is some kids, little kids love it. Some little kids, like they'll just literally point and go, "He's got a mohawk," and they'll like shout it across the room. So like, I usually react like this, like what? You know? Um, oh shit, where was I going with that? Oh, but like also older men love it, and it's usually fairly conservative guys. Guy will just walk up to me and say, "Dude, I love your hair." And I think what he's saying is, dude, I wish I had the the balls to do something like that because
Yeah.
I just look like everyone I stand around next to me. So I kind of take that as a compliment, but or at least a sign of empowerment. But yeah,
Yeah, and I would too. But yeah, it was just funny to me, like that's the point where you can talk to somebody about it. Like they have the so I even tried to think of like what would have been more clever things to say. Well, also, so this guy, like nicest parent in the school. I also believe he's from like UK or something, has an accent, just extremely nice and friendly. So I don't know if I would like joke with him the same way as somebody else, as far as like making a comment that might make him feel bad. You know, like so I like yeah, trying to say like, what do you mean? What do you mean? These are in style or something like these are the new Kanye's. Like, what are you talking about? These aren't this. I'm not hurt. Like
are you still working on bits for that show that you got coming up, or?
a little bit. So yeah, definitely going to do one in February. Well, planning on doing one in February. Also, there's one next month, early next month, I believe. That would be another minute. So I do need to come up with a minute for that. Still have been thinking some about the mascara bit, which yeah, if you're just tuning in, so I heard a commercial with my wife, radio commercial where it was better than sex mascara, and I thought it was hilarious, and I looked at her, and she was not laughing. And I asked her if she thought it was ridiculous, and she said, "Well, it's just really hard to find good mascara." So I'm trying to think of ways to play off of that. And there's a lot of different routes to go in. Some of those are more risky than others.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how far to push it going down that path.
Well, define risky. What's like?
Okay, so thinking along the lines of how I know mascara is not better than sex is people aren't committing crimes because of mascara. So one dark one dark path to go down is yeah, different crimes. Yeah, so I don't know what I should say here. Should I say one of the potential lines that I'm considering that I played around with in my head? Oh, all right. So, and yeah, keep in mind this is just comedy, and we're exploring here, people. So, no uncle has ever been convicted of having their nephew put eyeliner on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but that's then going down the trauma path. So, not sure if I would want to do that to possibly trigger somebody. So this would have to be like a more, I don't know, a very comfortable space as far as audience to go down that path. But these are just things like this is the early brainstorming stage, getting everything out on paper, and then figuring out what's awful, what might work, what might then try out to an actual audience. And that would probably not ever go in front of an actual audience.
It's interesting. You said, like, you're concerned that line would trigger someone? Like, in an audience of 100 people, one person might have had an uncle experience.
True.
And they're at
had experiences as well. So I mean, but I don't plan on going into any of those.
Yeah.
in a minute or even a 5-minute set. But I don't know. What do you think about that path? That
I think it's a path that lots have gone down, right? It's just like joking, like if you're not talking about it, it doesn't exist. So there's that. I don't think someone at a comedy show. Uh, I don't. I mean, if someone's triggered, what can you do? I mean, people get triggered about the dumbest things that are not even slightly remotely near that. It's a choice to be triggered. So it's not a responsibility to worry about whether every single person thinks that line is friendly. And it's certainly triggered doesn't mean all of a sudden they're jumping up on a clock tower and picking people off. It's just like it brings up a memory for them and they don't particularly think that one's funny. But that's you go. I've been to lots of comedy shows where there's lots of things I've heard. Like as someone that was overweight my whole life, I mean, it seems like even today, fat jokes are fine with most. Like everyone's
yeah.
fine with that, right? I personally find it terribly offensive, and I don't have that problem anymore. Like it's cruel because it's almost like everything else isn't okay, but it's fine that people struggle with their weight and you know. And I've never, yeah. So yeah, fuck it, man, do it. That's what I say.
Yeah, and I was even trying to think of like different iterations of that. Like, what would be a for mascara, like a version of lesser crimes, whether it's well, not to minimize any crimes, but as far as like I don't know, other things that people would do of like a sexual nature that then you could work this into it as far as like mascara being better than sex and obviously not being. Does anything come to mind for you?
No, although I'll tell you what did come to mind only because maybe there's something there. But like I've been meditating a lot lately, and in some cases, I've heard people say meditation can be better than sex. And
Oh,
I got to say, I've had some really good meditations that I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, because like there's no attachment to this. I just was in my mind having this explosively blissful feeling, and I didn't have to do anything other than give time to myself. I also saw, I keep seeing, it keeps popping up on my YouTube. Lenny Kravitz was saying he hasn't had sex in 9 years. And
okay.
yet, you look at the guy, he could have sex every hour if he wanted. He's in fantastic shape. He's a superstar. But really, what he's doing is living on a beautiful, what appears to be an island, eating well, meditating. He's blissed out. He doesn't need the complications of sex. This also reminds me of a quote by Osho. He apparently did a whole. I still haven't watched it or listened to it, but he apparently did a whole hour on the word fuck because the word fuck is actually like a positive word. We turned it into a negative, right? Like
Okay.
fuck is actually a term of love. It's not for unlawful carnal knowledge. It goes back to further than that. So
Okay.
really, the only time you're actually using fuck in a negative term is if you tell someone to fuck off because you're basically telling them to stop procreating, right? Like almost like you're so
Okay.
awful, there should be no more of you, right? That's what fuck off means. Um,
Oh,
he also said,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
he also said, and I love this, God invented the orgasm so we'd all stop fucking each other. And kind of true. Um, so yeah, having had some pretty blissful meditations, uh, it's pretty good. So I'd say meditation is better than sex, but I don't know about that. But certainly it can be on par, or it's just a whole different experience if you get it right. Like transcendental meditation, once you've got your meditation dialed in, I don't miss it now. I every day for the last month, I think I've been basically doing like a transcendental meditation in the morning and at night. So 20 to 30 minutes. It's my time. Everything's off. It's difficult to do because the brain gets going. So of that half hour, I might bliss out at best for 5, 10 minutes of it because it takes time to get there. But I'm getting better and better that I suspect if I keep at it, it'll be more like it takes me 3 minutes to get into it and I get to bliss out for 20 minutes. So You're writing away there. What are you writing?
Yeah. Yeah. you know my like, oh, there's a thought
Yeah.
face.
Well, let it brew. I don't want to interrupt that, but
No. So yeah, something you said sparked it. Trying to go a layer deeper here and thinking, what would mascara that's better than sex look like? Is it invisible? That does sound a lot like my wife's orgasm. Or like, well, is it impossible to see? Kind of like the clitoris. Like, so I'm just trying to figure out ways, yeah, to bring in the analogy to pair it with something else that people would relate with in a funny way.
or can you find the mascara? Just like find the G. Like it's always at the bottom of the purse,
There
right?
you go. Can you even
Dig
find
into
it?
that
If you
mascara.
go into the store, can you find it? Yeah. There we go. I think, yeah, I like this. I'm abused. Whether people or not will think the final product is funny is yet to be determined, but I like this.
And mascara, that's what you put on your eyelashes, right? Is that mascara? Or is it
Yeah.
what you draw around your eyes?
So it's for the lashes. So that's a part of this is whatever, if a bit comes out of this, I want to explain it too. And there's part of that because I asked my wife, like, okay, what does it even do? And what she said was, it makes your eyelashes long, thick, and dark. So there's something there too, because that's I was like, whoa, okay. So there's something to play off of that, but then also you're providing context. There was I was watching a movie with Erica, the movie Twisters. So the original Twister. So we watched Twisters, which came out recently, and then we went back and watched the original Twister. And one thing they did an amazing job of is they figured out a way to inform the audience by using a character and making it happen in a seemingly organic way. So there's the main like tornado experts, and then there's the new fiance of the main character, Bill Paxton's character. She knows nothing about tornadoes and this technology or anything. So they use her to ask the dumb questions, and then they explain the technology. But what they're actually doing is they're informing the audience. They're giving you that base of knowledge that then will be used for the rest of the movie. It's fantastic. They do it in a really good way, even though a lot of the movie's kind of cheesy. So this would be that kind of device, is, giving my wife's response, using that response to inform the guys what mascara is without saying, well, guys, if you don't know what mascara is, here's what it does. That doesn't work as well as weaving it into the story.
The other thought that came to mind, because I don't really have much to say in reply to that, other than that was interesting. You remember Airplane and the two well dressed kids, and they're like 8 years old, and the boy walks up to the girl and says, "Coffee." She's like, "Oh yes, please." And milk and sugar, and she's like, "No, I take it black, like my men." But she's like an 8 year old girl.
I forgot that line.
Right? But you could reincarnate that line because how do you like your mascara? Like black, like my men. Especially with your comment about like good eyeliner is. What'd you say? Thick black and.
So I asked her what it did. She said it makes your eyelashes long, thick, and dark. And then so the throwaway line, I thought of it. So we're both going to Ulta now. Like now I'm turned on. Like something. Trying to figure out how to work with that. When you said the milk and sugar, what came to mind is a scene from The Office where Pam wanted some coffee and she asked Michael, the boss, "Do you have coffee?" And he goes, "Milk and sugar." And they answer, his thermos, and she drinks it, and she goes, "Is this just in milk and sugar?" He said, "That's what I said, milk and sugar." It was just a thing of milk and sugar, and she like spit it out, like, but because she said like, "Do you have coffee?" And he went, "Milk and sugar," but he literally only had milk and sugar.
So with a 1 minute bit, the whole thing would be on that topic, basically, right? So is mascara the central keynote, or are you trying to make that bit work, and maybe it's a byproduct of the piece? Like you're still formulating in your mind, I guess, right?
Can you ask that again?
You've got a 1 minute bit that you're preparing for.
Yes.
Your what's inspiring right now is the mascara comment.
The commercial, the Better Than Sex commercial.
Yeah, because that was it was a funny anecdote. I remember talking about it, and it's like true, like your wife said it, right? So it's easy to recall,
Yes.
and it's, it resonates. I guess my question is the 1 minute bit now about setting that joke up, or could that just be a companion to a different thing if if the mascara thing doesn't have enough legs to stand on its own? I mean, I think it does. We've been.
Oh yeah, I mean, this would just when you're doing a minute, unless you're doing just one-liners, you can't have like multiple topics. The best approach is usually going as deep as possible on one topic, or if you're a one-liner comedian, then you can just hit the one-liners. I mean, you don't have to be a one-liner comedian. You can do one-liners anyway. Some people do just to test out jokes and then see. You could also test. I would test out one-liners to also see if something's worth building on too. If it got a good reaction, then it's like, all right, maybe next time I'll turn that one joke into a full minute and I'll write around that. Okay. So it's a way to test that out too. But my thought would be, yeah, go the full minute on just that specific topic.
The other thing that's brought to mind, and it's a bit of a side tangent as well, but Toastmasters has come up a couple times this week in conversation, and I've always been interested to go. I never did, and then I forgot about it. Like I'll think about it, and then 5 years will pass, and I'll think about it again.
Same.
And I'm assuming there's one locally here, maybe, but that seems like a good practice ground, right? Like because especially for crowd work, where effectively, my understanding is you're there to practice your public speaking and to get a critique from everybody, because they'll probably help you, like what are your mannerisms that you're doing as well. But you don't get to prepare anything either. They'll just give you a topic, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you do. I know somebody that like won or went to the finals or something. The one thing that I've seen from several people that have started with Toastmasters and then gone into stand-up and other things is, and this, I'm sure it doesn't hold true for everybody, but from what I've seen is it seems very rehearsed. They have a hard time coming off natural on stage. Me, from a, small theater performance background, I have a hard time just coming off really natural as well. Like I'm still working on that. So like if you're using Toastmasters just to get comfortable with stand-up comedy, it might be a little rough. Once you first start getting on stage in front of audiences, just because it's a totally different audience and a different like art/performance.
Yeah.
It can definitely help with like your approach to things and your comfort level speaking. That's where I think it can really help. But as far as like developing your comedic voice and stuff, I don't know if that would be the best use of Toastmasters.
No, yeah. I think part of it for me is still curiosity around just public speaking in general, and developing, having people point out mannerisms that I'm not catching them with myself.
I think people would love you in Toastmasters.
You think so?
Yeah, because like in I mean, one of the main goals of many people going to Toastmasters is trying to feel comfortable in their own skin, trying to feel comfortable speaking in public. You're very comfortable in your own skin. You're not afraid to say things. So they might see you as like the Toastmaster bad boy and like, man, I wish I could be more like Sean and just speak my mind. Like, I feel like you'd be very popular in Toastmasters. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but I feel like you'd be
Yeah,
popular.
the badass of Toast. Yeah, no. Well, thank you for that. Because like,
Introducing the badass from Toastmasters, Sean.
thank you. I mean, a year ago, I wouldn't have agreed with that at all. But yeah, a lot of work this year, and yeah, I think you're right. I think I would be fairly comfortable. I'd still get nerves, but it
Yeah,
would be nothing like it used to be. It
right.
just doesn't seem to. It just rolls off me for some reason. So cool. um, there's been so many things that have happened this week. I'm just reflecting for a second. Oh, I saw there was 4 comedians here, or not comedians, magicians on Sunday.
Okay.
So it was my dad's 80th, and my mom threw a surprise birthday party for him. So we had like 17 family there, 13 friends. It was, a big group of people in a pretty small space. And then these 4 musicians, they're called the Four Suits.
The four
Um,
suits. Okay.
and it was neat watching them. Not only were all of them actually really great magicians, but because they were kind of like, they worked together, kind of like the four tops or the four tenors, like it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
So one guy came out, he did a little bit, and then he introduced the next guy, and then he come back out and introduced the next guy, and so it was they were all really really good, and
Wow.
outside the first guy seemed genuinely pretty comfortable the whole time, the other 3 started super nervous, but within 90 seconds they were cool, right? Like they just kind of you could just see they just had to shake it off and get a bit of feedback from the crowd. So not a massive crowd, but certainly a close crowd and a very
Okay.
appreciative crowd. So it was neat watching them. And some of their bits were so good. Almost always, yeah, it was always comedy. In fact, that's a question I've got. There's a lot of magic acts that have a comedy element, right? There's not too many serious ones. Like there's a few,
Oh.
like the Chris, uh, whatever his
Chris
name.
Angel, David Blaine, David Copperfield. I saw David Copperfield as a kid in a
Really?
theater. Yes, and his big thing was like showing up in the middle of the crowd on a motorcycle. We're like, how did the motorcycle get there?
Yeah.
That was the big trick. It was at Miller Auditorium in Kalamazoo on Western Michigan's campus. But I remember being blown away as a kid. Now I look back and I was like, whatever. But it was cool as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't really do comedy either. He's sort of like the serious man.
He's serious. He takes it
Yeah.
seriously.
But like Penn and Teller, comedy, right? And
Yes.
certainly smaller acts seem to be comedy based. So there's a question for you. Do you think comedy limits a magic act's potential? Because I can't really think of too many famous magicians that are really at the big names. I'm
I
sure.
do. I do know there is a good crossover of magicians, exhibitionists, things like that do translate really well to stand-up comedy. And
Mhm.
they have a better career as stand-up comedians. I know several who are pretty good, and they started off doing like balloon animals or small magic tricks, and then they just went full on to comedy, and they're pretty good. That type of work does seem to transition well. We were talking about Toastmasters, maybe not. That does transition over well. But as far as getting big with your comedy, I feel like you almost have to take it more to comedy. I mean, it all depends on what the audience wants. Do you want to laugh, or are you going to be wowed? And you're usually not really like wowed by comedy. It's a different interaction with the performer.
It's sort of space filler between the big huzzah moments, kind of thing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's hard to if you can do both. I can't think of any who does a really good job of both. I mean, I don't know a ton of magicians, but
Yeah. No, it's just kind of an observation. Like, it's like Siegfried and Roy, they were magicians, right? And I don't think anything about what they were doing was funny. It was just grandiose.
what, you don't think when one of them got mauled by their own tiger?
Now, now.
Well, you're gonna play with tigers.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. The other guy died, I think, too, didn't he? I think he's since passed.
Did
Finally.
he?
I
Okay.
think so.
Do you know which one?
Oh, I think they both were gone. I think the other guy had Why? I don't know. It's not. It's not. But now you're
Now
looking.
you got me. You know what I'm googling right now.
Yeah, my sense is the first guy that got mauled eventually did pass away, and then I
Well,
feel like the other guy died last year or something, 2 years ago.
they both died within a year of each other, which is kind of sweet.
Mhm.
In a grim way. 2020, 2020, and 2021.
Yeah. Okay. It did seem like around the start of COVID that all that was going on. So
Siegfried won.
Siegfried won.
He outlived the other. I mean,
Oh man.
well, that's probably losing, really. I mean, if you love each other,
Yeah.
but yeah. Oh wow, Siegfried's last name was Fischbacher. I guess you know why he went by Siegfried and Roy rather than the
Yeah.
wonderful Siegfried Fischbacher. It's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah. I wonder if an act like theirs would even work today. And certainly,
No,
would you end up with your own headlining act in Vegas? I don't think so. It
no,
would.
not just because you have a awesome white tiger, like a rare tiger. It's like, look, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about their magic. They cared about the cool tiger.
Yeah. I was in Vegas, I think, as you know, about a month ago, and every hotel I went to, no live bands, just lots of lounges with Spotify playing, lots of booze. Like it
Oh,
just, the amount of entertainment value there is either like really big and really expensive, but all the small stuff, like where it's just something going on everywhere, no, just machines and betting bars and the pool. So, and
that's
every
kind of
hotel.
sad. I mean, did you just go during a slow time of the year and or a slow time of the week?
I was there during a weekend, so it's definitely
Okay.
the time that should be more lively. I was
Yeah.
there obviously in the middle of summer, where it's hotter and probably I'd be willing to bet summer in Vegas is almost slower because I think it's
It
close.
is. I've made trips there. It's cheaper and there's less people. That's also why when some organizations choose to do um like their big conventions there. I did one like in July and it was like 110 walking back from the Venetian to my cheap hotel.
Yeah, yeah, but I didn't get the sense like I didn't see rooms set up with gear. Like it's not even just that it was a slow time of the week. There just wasn't the rooms.
Okay.
The new hotels just had like a bunch of restaurants, each one expensive. A gift shop, like just the same amenities, and these are big ass hotels, right? It just
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, I'm sure everyone's noticed it's just not the same anymore, but it's just not the same, not the same, not the same. And it's at this point you just smell cigarette smoke and everything's blinking and beeping. It's not great for my acoustic ADHD. Like it just was constant noise being shouted at me. So
Yeah. Um the magic show. So did you take anything away? I mean, obviously we've talked about you doing some kind of show where comedy would be a part of it, hypnosis would be a part of it. Did ideas come out of this? What were like your takeaways? Were you thinking of that?
I don't know if ideas came out of it. I just felt inspired again. Like it was kind of like got to get back to that. I'm in survival mode for the next couple of weeks, months here. So, but in the back of my mind, ideas are percolating for sure. I would love to incorporate music, drums, hypnosis. As I said, I think I mentioned last time, like I am a little interested in somehow figuring integrating design because there's so many things that I can like look at someone's design and just say some things
Yeah.
like I bet this and get a rise out of them, and that could lead to all sorts of content from a almost a crowd work but with props, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
um,
And I've seen people do that, like be a mentalist and have that be like their stand-up comedian. Like I've seen that at in a comedy open mic as somebody do mentalism. That was their thing.
yeah, and I wonder. It's funny you should say mentalism because I'm obviously a fan because I've been looking into it. Human design kind of gives me the ability to do a bit of mentalism because it gives me
Yeah.
insights into things that otherwise aren't there, right?
And
So
also like the phrasing of how to describe it and how to put somebody's characteristics together with words. I mean, it kind of gives you a roadmap for that too, something that people connect with.
Was that something we can explore for a minute here? Like, how would that look? Like, if we're, like, hey, everybody, I'm Sean. It's nice to be here. Blah blah blah. Some intro joke, and then I want to introduce something new today. There's this thing called the human design system, and basically, it's your sheet of music. Is anyone interested in exploring your sheet of music? You have to go through the steps of getting their birth data in. It takes a couple seconds. Flash it up on a screen. Analyze it for like 10 seconds. I don't
So
know if I can pull the comedy out of it, but I do wonder if it's something that I could explore.
that would kill any momentum. That would be hard to generate momentum with that start. But you could have little things that people could fill out ahead of time, or you could introduce that quickly, like do some joke, ask for volunteers to fill something out, and then figure out ways to entertain the audience right then about like either observations you're making, so crowd work right off the top, prepared jokes, or something based on the people that volunteered that can give them enough time to turn it in, and then for you to start to look that up. The hard part would be filling that like dead space, that the points that could lose the audience. Because even I think that this mentalist did a pretty decent job, but the audience is not patient, especially if they're there to see comedy. They're not patient. They want jokes. They want quick fire. They want to laugh. Yeah. If it takes 2 minutes, even 2 minutes, which is a short amount of time, before you're getting to any of the real content, it's going to be hard to get them on your side.
Yeah, I mean, I can see solutions for that. Have a QR code, goes to a form, people enter it on their phone while they're listening. But I'm already thinking, like, I don't even know how I would turn that information into a bit anyways. So maybe it's more just that tool has given me insights about myself and others that has made me a little sharper intuitively in and pick up on things. So if I could find a comedic way to grab that, use that skill. Yeah, I don't know where that would go yet. I can't see that it could.
What I would suggest, if there's a topic that you have like stand-up material around, or something you would want to talk about, then focus, niche it up, focus on just that aspect of it, and get to know that really well. So then when you look at the human design, it would be based around sex or athletics or something that then you could use that as the entry point. And then, hey, I could tell you blank about your blank with this, and be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would go really specific with it and develop material right around that specific topic that then you could talk about while people are waiting or while you're pulling things up, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think that probably won't translate into stand-up. I'm still interested in stand-up, but I think for me, it probably have to be some sort of like unique show versus going up to a stand-up mic. And because I'd probably want a drum set there. I'd probably want my props. I'd want my stuff, right? So, and it probably would then have a hypnosis element, because that's the part that people would be more familiar with. But maybe doing a twist on hypnosis for sure. But yeah, I feel like something's brewing, so maybe it'll just like all come together one day. There'll be some aha moment, but hasn't happened yet.
Okay. One thing, I can't remember all the specifics. I don't know where this is heading, me bringing this up, but I was in the car today listening to, I have Sirius XM radio, and I've been listening to a lot of like the sports talk recently. I wanted something else, so I turned to comedy. I love some of the comedy stations they have, and there was this joke. I want to send you off, by Beth Stelling, and it's about her dad's raccoon army. Like, her dad started feeding raccoons and then wouldn't stop feeding raccoons, and they just kept like compiling, like more kept coming, and he would take videos, and you could count how many raccoons there were. And I can't remember what she said. I think I got to like 91 raccoons. And then she said, and then he tried to stop feeding them, and they would come out, and they would take rocks, and they would roll them towards his window and hit the house with rocks until it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just her going into, well, how do you get rid of these raccoons? What do you do? How does that call with the exterminator go? Like, yeah, I got some raccoons. Oh, how many? Exactly 91. Do you want their names too, or do you just want to come out here?
Yeah.
Like, just, it was just so funny how she told this whole story, and like the build up, and then it was just like amazing storytelling in a comedic form. So yeah, if anybody's listening, Beth Stelling, I believe it was. I think it's from her. I just Googled it. If You Didn't Want Me Then is the name of the special, but it's about raccoons, and it was absolutely hilarious.
Beth Stelling?
Yes, and I'm not familiar with the comedian outside of this. It was on Netflix's A Joke Radio, and it was really good. I was crying, laughing, and having done stand-up comedy for a few years and seen a lot, it takes a lot to get me to that point.
Yeah, she looks kind of familiar. Cool.
I don't even know.
She looks like someone else. I can't think of. Well, anyways.
Oh, she is. I've seen her in things. I don't know what I've seen her in. Has she been on like Saturday Night Live? Maybe. Man, she's got a very familiar face.
Yeah, no, she's definitely come across my radar before. Huh. How do you get 91 raccoons? Like, they weren't reproducing. It was just that he was actually feeding them, and
just,
so they kept.
Yes, he was giving them. He was buying dog food for them, and they're just. And so, like, I'm gonna butcher it, but she talked about like her and her sister trying to estimate how much he was spending a year, and it was like over $4,000 on dog food in a year for the raccoons. And then like him eventually trying to get rid of them, and so he bought traps. They were expensive traps, so he had 2 traps, and just taking them 2 at a time down and releasing them, and just keep going. And he would give her updates about how the raccoon trapping and releasing would go. It's like, so I got 37 raccoons so far, 2 stray cats and a possum, or like just a
and so were they communicating with each other and saying, "Hey, this guy has food," and they were calling in troops?
Oh yeah, yes.
Wow. I wasn't sure if raccoons shared that kind of information. They all seem to be little bandits, but
hey, bandits band together, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, you figure out where the food source is. I mean, they're smart. They're all about survival.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So is this a good point? Should we?
Yeah, I think you can feel the air coming out, and you're like, if we start a whole new topic, we might need 15 minutes. So
or a couple hours.
Yeah. So it's probably best to just wrap it there.
All right. So, and if you think of anything on my topic, and I'll think about yours as well.
Yeah, the mascara thing.
There's something there. I loved your. Yeah, I know I wrote it down here, but what you said, not being able to find it like in a store, like that's. Yeah, I feel like there's some comedy gold in there somewhere.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up for this week.
All right. Sounds good.
See you, buddy.
See ya.